Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on December 16th, 2012, picking up a couple weeks since the last time recorded. And what we're working on in this chapter is getting our WeWiki application to draw lines in response to mouse drags. And you can see what we have right here is the ability to draw lines in response to clicks. You may not be able to hear it, but every time a line appears, I'm clicking the mouse. And in the last episode, we were just trying to get those click positions to respect the padding, borders, and margin of the enclosing div. And we ran into some problems with that. It was not so simple. And actually, in thinking about it, I think what I'd like to do is actually postpone that work for another chapter. So for the next, we'll do that in the next chapter, because that is interesting work, and it raises all kinds of questions about, well, do we even need to do it? Because, right now we don't have a whole lot of padding, border, and margin. Do we need to spend all this time on stuff that we don't need to do? Also, it's really taking away from the event handling, which I want to be the focus of this chapter. So I'm going to set that aside for a little bit, and we're going to get back to the main work of this chapter, which is to get our click tracking, our event handling actually following the mouse and drawing line segments and so forth, and doing that all in a test-driven way. So we've got our tests working. All our browsers are up and running. So what I'd like to do now is just take out the border stuff and get us back to the point where the code's working with just the basic click tracking stuff. Okay, so there it is. It's working. So let's just comment this out for now. Okay, so there we go. Now it has been a couple of times since I last recorded, so I just want to take a moment to catch up. We've got it saying it needs to have the same dimensions as its enclosing div. That's good. We've got to draw a line. That's good. And we've got it saying it should respond to the mouse. And we've got a to-do saying we need to test that it accounts for margin, border, and padding. Let's just move this down here. Okay, so the code does respond to the mouse. It responds to a click. So we're creating the drawing area, appending it, initializing it, sending a click event, and then expecting that we will see that event occur. Now what I want to do is actually draw line segments. So I'm going to change this existing test, because what we've got the code doing right now is not the way we really want it to behave. So we're sort of sneaking up on the problem by writing a test to do something that we know isn't quite right, and then we can change that existing test. Sometimes people think that once you write a test, it needs to live forever, but it's actually sometimes, since you need to take really small steps in test-driven development, sometimes it's actually easier to write a test that does something that gets you part of the way there, and then modify that test to get you further and further towards your goal. So that's what we're doing here. We've written a test to do a click, but now we're going to change it so that it draws line segments in response to clicks. And to make that work, I think what I want to do is abstract out some of the click stuff that we're doing. So let's just make sure everything's still working. Yeah, no surprise there. And now I'm going to factor this method out and call it click the mouse. And we'll have that take an X, well, let's call it page X, and page Y. And then here we'll pass in 2030. And here we'll take page X, page Y, and that should still work. Yes, it does. Okay, so now we've got the mouse clicking working. Okay. So, and here we have it calculating the offset. Yeah, we'll go ahead and leave that. Now let's go ahead and factor that out too. We'll call that the, oh, I don't know. Let's call it the relative position, for lack of a better term. And that's going to return, that's pretty good actually. We'll return just x and y. And again, pass in some of these variables. So that's page x, page y. And the reason I'm factoring this out here is because the what I want to do is just make it easier to deal with the multiple clicks that we're going to have to handle. So let's see. Let's go ahead and pass in the drawing area of page x, page y. The reason I'm passing in drawing area is because I think that at some point in the future we might want to have multiple drawing areas or something. Anyway, it's easier to take out a parameter than to add a parameter. So that's why I'm doing that. Then we'll inline this expected x and this expected y. And let's rename this to position. And this we renamed to x and y. And I'm hoping that will still work. It's not though. Page x is not defined. Here we need to hard code 2030. Okay, so that's all still working. Now what I want to do, well, let's go ahead and check that in. We cleaned up the mouse test code. Now what I want to do is I want to click the mouse twice and say that this is the start and the end is going to be relative position of, let's say, 50, 60. So we'll click mouse at 2030 and then at 50, 60, and then we'll expect our path to go from M20 start x to start y to end x and y. So what I'm doing here is trying to force the code to actually do line segments. And this should fail, which it does. It says expected 2 to equal 1. So that's not a great error message. And again, that's a flaw with expect.js. If you have more than one expect, there's no way to distinguish them. There's no way to put a message in here saying number of elements or something like that. Now, it could be that I'm missing something in expect.js, but that is pretty common of the BDD style assertions. And in my opinion, is the major flaw. A major flaw of the BDD approach is that you can't easily do multiple assertions and distinguish them. So now what we need to do, so it's giving us multiples, which is what we'd expect. Let's go ahead and pull out the start x and start y. So basically what we need to do is this here, the previous x, previous y. So let's just go ahead and do that. And how do we do that? Okay, yeah, this is the relative x, and this is the relative y, and then we're going to say if prev x is null, then we draw the line. We don't draw the line. So if it's not null, we draw the line, and then we assign prev x to relative x and prev y to relative y. So that should work. It doesn't though. Expected 0, 0, 42, 52 to equal 12, 22, 42, 52. Oh, well, that's actually good. So it's passing the test of having multiple segments, but now we need this to be not going from 0, 0. Okay, test passed. Now let's confirm that it works the way we think it ought to. That's great. Let me do it again. We click once, nothing happens, then we click again, and yes. We're getting our line segments just like we're supposed to. Fantastic. Okay, so now let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Let's call this end x. Let's call this end y. And let's call this start x and start y. I think that just reads a little more clearly. And then we'll call this page offset. Okay. That's fairly good. And I think at some point we'll want to factor this out as well, but not just yet. Okay, so now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and check that in. So what have we done here? We've we draw line segments in response to clicks. Now what I'd like to do is clean up this bit here. Actually, what I want to do is, rather than saying all of this, I think what I'd like to do is I think what I want to do next is actually assert that we're drawing multiple line segments. And although I could do that with a new test, I think it would be fairly straightforward to just do it right here. So I'm going to do that. That's going to result in this needing to be 2, and us needing another path, which is going to be something else. So that is what I'd like us to clean up next. But we are just about out of time. So that's what we'll pick up with next time. So what I'm doing here, what I want to do is force our test to have a better assertion mechanism. So I want to do something that basically looks like this. Expect paper path. Basically say paper paths should equal some sort of array, like, I don't know, 20, 30 to 50, 60 to 40, 40, 20, or something like that. That's where we're going with this. So that's what we'll pick up with next time. We are doing line segments, so that's great. What we need to do next is make assertions easier to write and read. So that's for next time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will catch you next time.